If you're standing in the middle of a storm and wondering whether a whole house standby generator will actually keep the lights on for your family, the question really comes down to three things: who will get the most benefit, who should walk away, and whether the price feels fair for a typical homeowner. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The hesitation most people feel isn't about the horsepower on paper. 22 kW sounds massive, but about the hidden costs that appear once the unit is installed and the practical reality of how often you'll actually need it. I spent the last 2 weeks digging through forums, talking to a couple of electricians who have installed standby generators, and reading the handful of technical sheets available for Champion's power equipment 201222 model. What I found is that this unit is positioned as a plug-and-play solution for houses that want a whole-house power backup without the complicated wiring runs you normally see with larger commercial setups. The key promises are a 20% fuel efficiency edge over the competition, a built-in whole-house transfer switch that reduces the amount of wiring needed, and a 24-volt starting system that claims to work from -22°F up to scorching summer highs. Those are all solid claims, but they translate into real-world benefits only if your home's power needs match the generator's sweet spot and if you're comfortable with the installation model Champion uses. First, let's talk about who should consider this generator. If you have a single-family home, roughly 1,800 to 2,200 square feet, that runs a typical set of appliances: refrigerator, furnace, a few lights, maybe a few outlets for a home office, then a 22 kilowatts unit gives you a comfortable buffer. The whole house switch means you won't have to manually connect each circuit, and the lower wiring requirements can shave a few $100s off the total installed cost. Homeowners who have previously relied on portable generators and are tired of the hassle of refueling and manually hooking up devices will appreciate the set-it-and-forget-it nature of the standby system. In climates where winter dips below zero, the 24-volt cold start capability is a real peacekeeper. You won't be stuck watching the gauge needle crawl while the engine sputters at -10°F. On the flip side, skip this model if you live in a larger property with high-draw loads. Think a large HVAC system, an in-ground pool pump, or a workshop full of power tools. Those applications can push the generator past its 22 kilowatts rating, especially when you factor in startup surges. Also, if you're a DI-oriented tinkerer who loves to fine-tune wiring diagrams, the less wiring approach might actually feel like a step backward. Champion's design bundles the transfer switch and the generator into one unit, which means you lose the flexibility to customize the switch panel or choose a separate, higher amp breaker that might be needed for a dedicated workshop circuit. Finally, if you're looking for the lowest possible upfront price, there are cheaper generators on the market, but they typically come without the integrated switch and the advanced sound dampening that Champion touts. Now, down to the practical strengths that make a difference once the unit is humming. The most noticeable advantage is the sound reduction. Champion built a low-tone muffler and added extra sound-absorbing material around the exhaust and engine. In my neighborhood, neighbors complained about the rumble of an older standby unit that sounded like a truck engine idling. The 201222 model, on the other hand, runs at a volume that you can barely notice from inside the house, which is a huge win for anyone who lives close to a neighbor or just hates noise. Next up is fuel consumption. The claim of up to 20% better fuel efficiency translates into roughly a half-gallon per hour saving on a typical 24-hour run compared with a similarly sized competitor. For families that might run the generator for a full night during a winter freeze, that can shave $15 to $20 off the fuel bill. Another strength is the built-in whole-house switch. Installation manuals show that you can hook the transfer switch directly to the main breaker panel, eliminating the need for a separate subpanel. This reduces both material cost and labor time. In practice, that means a licensed electrician can finish the job in a half-day instead of a full day, which directly cuts down on the labor invoice. The 10-year limited warranty, paired with free lifetime technical support, is also a comforting safety net. When you pay a premium price, you want to know you won't be left holding a dead unit after a few years. Champion's support team is reachable by phone, which is useful if you run into the rare startup hiccup that sometimes shows up after a long period of inactivity. Where the unit falters, the issues are more subtle. The first is the requirement for a dedicated 200A breaker. If your home already has a 200A service panel, the upgrade is straightforward, but many older homes still run on 100A or 150A service. Upgrading to a 200A service can add a significant expense, sometimes $1,500 to $2,000 for the panel and the associated labor. That cost isn't included in the base.